the first question is, this exhibition and the theme is a transformation, and what do you think about transformation and the ideas, the definition, also how your work related to transformation?
I think transformation is like a passage of time, so it's not necessarily about today or tomorrow even, it's also about the past. And I think that artists in one way artists are witness to their specific place and time. And I think that in my practice what I try and do is I look at the very small things of my day-to-day existence in a way of my day-to-day life, but I also look very closely at the way that the domestic space or the way that your very personal space and the idea of yourself as being many people or changes over a period of time depending on how you've lived your life. And so human beings are very complicated, and we're extremely complex in the way that we relate emotionally to other people, the way that historically we relate not only our species to other species like animals or the world, and the way that we treat like this planet that we live on, the way that we've maybe changed the way we treat the planet, the way that we've used the planet, the way that we've exploited the planet. So I think there's always it's like a full circle. You're just going round, and transformation is this really.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And because I just presenting 4 pieces and sculptures, and also the Bindi's painting.
Yeah.
The Bindi is the symbol of the transformation. What you wrote about something like that. So, and just to explain about particular your work and ideas of transformation. What's the relation?
So the Bindis are a representation of a third eye. That's very literally what they are, and. For me, I like to think of it as a conceptual underpinning, that you can wear this symbol and really it's something that you've instilled faith in, and then are able to see things in a different way, so that third eye that you carry then will see things perhaps clearer or more in a more sympathetic, maybe more critical way. So that it's the things that we don't always notice that you start to understand. And the Bindis become markers, they become like symbols of time, because they're stuck one by one. They mark place, territory, the way that actually the Bindis have just become a tool now for me to use in the way that I need to use them, so they can be like topographical maps, the way that landscapes change. The way that we see the planet from above, they mark time. For me, they kind of mark, and they're also they're memories. So the day that a lady will say, will take her bindi off and put it on a mirror, it's like that bindi then has been with her for the whole day, and it marks. It's like a residue of the day. And I suppose in the way that I make the sculpture, especially this group of women sculptures, they. They're like monsters. I mean, they really are. I always call them like my urban goddesses. They're like urban mythologies. And so they're like contemporary. I've made these women who are goddesses, but also they're kind of monstrous. And if you look at the idea of what the monster is like a portent for the future. It's a shaman. And this is something that I've always looked at in other works that I've made, things that can tell the future. So we talk about the past and we look towards the future, but sometimes, in this present time, we're not really very sure of how we're going to deal with it. So if you look at all these things together and you have to make an image, that image is something that maybe you don't really know. So a lot of the times I don't even know where my women come from. I don't know where they're going to go. I don't know what they're going to look like. But I just know that you're not supposed to recognize them. So one will be from one place, not from another place. You can't quite place them because you can't place them. For me, that's interesting.
Yeah. Good. So, and also for me, it's very interesting. You just mentioned about almost related to what you said, because kind of very domestic and a housewife and a job, you know, those kind of parties and the shopping, also just serving and a cake and something to somebody, and also cleaning. So, and then you just transformed the very dramatically. So, you know, for me, it's very interesting. What's the kind of those kind of domestic everyday life and routine.
Yeah, because it's real.
Jumping.
You know, it's very real, and you know, it's not something that I'm necessarily critiquing. I'm just saying my life is full of many rituals that we do every single day. And whether you're a man or a woman, I'm a woman, so I can only talk about myself. I don't think I will make sculptures necessarily today of men, perhaps because I'm not a man. So I know women because I'm a woman. You know, of course, and at that, so when I understand those day-to-day ritualistic aspect of our day-to-day life, which I think many artists have done so, they have this idea of repetition, and I think I started to look about these things that we do every single day: put on the bindi, place the bindi, me sticking the bindis on and on and on, and then doing this, looking at the ways that we clean, the ways that we receive our guests. You give and you take, you offer. And it's very Asian, that kind of culture. When somebody comes into your house, you will offer them water, or you offer them food. But there's this kind of behind all of that sculpture, there's a kind of rebellion in a way, and that's kind of maybe a little bit of a punky kind of rebellion that just says, yeah, you do all of this, but at the same time, there is a certain antagonism that most women live with on a day-to-day basis. They really don't want to be doing most of it. So let's face it, you're sort of sitting there and maybe you don't want to do it. So there's a lot of humour in the work, I think. And yeah, it's actually talking about things that maybe people don't really want to know about. But I feel that the domestic space is really the very beginning and the seed of every single thing perhaps that happens with your children, your family, your life. Your home is really like the seat. And you know, we talk about the big world of the newspaper and politics and the economy, and actually all of it is in a very tiny microcosm, and that space is in your house. It's all happening: violence, humour, social status, economic status, who and where people are, age, definitions of masculine and feminine, role-playing. All of it begins from the day you're born, the day that you're in your house. I think I started looking at it much more when I became a parent, actually.
Yeah. And also, for me, it's very much concerned about if you just compare the kind of Western culture to Eastern culture, and also about kind of life, as the kind of ideas, for instance, like a reincarnation. So, and you're just going to be kind of used to the tree, or you're just going to be animals the next life, something like that. So, and is there any kind of because you've been living in London, UK, and for more than 20 years. So after you moved, so what's kind of how do you're comparing and do different culture about this kind of difference?
Yeah, you know, the thing is, I like I love narrative, and I love myth, and I love storytelling, and I think where Asia is really interesting in some ways. I mean, obviously the Greeks too, but we have lived in traditions of oral stories being told and passed down over the generations, and I get a lot of. I like narrative. My work is full of narrative. It's full of stories, contradicting stories. It's full of contradiction in many, many places. I mean, something like reincarnation, I don't really specifically believe in many things except, say, the power of there's art in everything. There's art in a newborn baby, there's art in the whales swimming in the sea, there's art in great Botticelli painting, the great masters, there's beauty everywhere. And if you have to say that, talk about reincarnation, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm finished, I hope. Yes. If really we're there, I really hope that I'm done. I've done my 7 lives. I'm finished now.
Okay. the same answer is if I asked that your second life. So
My second life.
Yes, yeah, if you then can give another life and afterwards, so what will you be? A tiger or the rabbit or mouse, or yourself?
An elephant.
Elephant.
I think I am. I probably want to be an elephant. They have long life and big memory. And
Good. So, and the last question is, through your work, also through this exhibition, also in general, your creativity, what's your message to the audiences?
that I think art's not really very difficult to understand. Actually, it's very simple most of the time, and if you trust yourself, you're often right. What you see is often right, and so I think art's become, over the years, people feel that it's not approachable, and I think it's very approachable if you just trust yourself.